push this out.
What's up, Mortgage Coach community? It is Friday, and it is the Friday before the 4th of July. So go Team USA, big weekend celebrating America. This is a very special call for a couple reasons. One, I think it's the halfway point. It is July 1st, and it has been one ride. I'm not going to use the word crazy, what a crazy market it's been, because I want to use words that help us win. It's been a fast-moving, complex, awesome opportunity for leaders that want to gain market share. But it is a year where at halftime, we need to put a little more intention into how we kick off the next year. And Todd at Bookspin, Mr. Win by Noon, and Deborah came up with this idea on how to reset your year. So Todd, I'm going to hand it off to you as my wingman to frame the call. Bring in our other guest, and then guys, we're gonna mastermind. Anyone watching this in Facebook, if you have comments or questions, put them down below. Todd and I will be checking it out. We'll bringing them in. And if you're watching this in Zoom, bring your questions. Let's get after it, and let's reset halftime in 2022. Todd.
Well, I'm super excited and super grateful. You and I have been doing these calls now for just a hair over 6 years, and today marks the 5-year anniversary of the launch of Win by Noon. And so I'm super grateful for you, Dave, for highlighting here in the community, and for all the members here who have been part of this journey for the last 5 years. And I love this whole idea of halftime. For me, it's all about the idea of what gets measured gets done, and also really you can't really grow going forward unless you've obviously planned and set goals, and then you can't actually really see how you're doing on track for the goals that you've set unless you're really spending time to review. And so kind of as we get in here with our special guests today, I kind of want you to all frame it around that is really think about where are you now, right? What's your current reality? What did you anticipate it to be? Are you on track? Or are you behind? And then the only way you're really gonna know if you spend time looking at that. And so as always, I'm super excited. We have Deborah here who's gonna be giving us insight and asking great questions. Welcome, Deborah.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And congrats to Win by Noon. Big 5 years. That means I must have met you and been introduced like when it was launched at Sales Mastery. I ordered my first Win by Noon planner. I still have it with my Mortgage Coach edition.
Well, and it's funny. I just sent a video message to Edgar De Jesus, who's in our group here. He was the first person to ever order a copy of Win by Noon. So Adam and I are doing something special for him. And so as we get rolling here, I think when you think halftime, right, what sport do you think more about halftime in than football, right, Dave?
There's no sport you think more about halftime than football.
And so those of you who have been part of this community for a long time or been part of the Watch the Modern Real Estate Summit, you know that we've really got a rock star, the commander of attitude, Glenn Bill. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you, Todd. It's great to be here. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Deborah. It's so nice to be here and talking with you guys about how to assess and create a mid-year reset.
Well, and I think, you embody, when you get on stage, you just kind of own the stage. I first met Glenn, had to be about maybe 4 years ago. I was back in freezing negative something degrees there in Indiana at a mortgage company. And I was able to speak right before the legendary coach, Bobby Knight, and then you spoke. And it was just a great event. And I think we are kind of shift gears from basketball to football, and we've got a true legend sitting there alongside of us. Do you mind giving Gary a quick introduction? Because I don't want to do any injustice to his Super Bowl winning resume.
I love it. So yes, Gary, welcome to Mortgage Coach, the Mortgage Coach community. And I would not be surprised if you guys end up having Gary just as a special guest as well. But Gary was the captain of the Indianapolis Colts football team in 2007 when we won the Super Bowl, and he holds the Super Bowl record for most solo tackles in a Super Bowl. But Gary is an incredibly smart human being. He's a caring human being. He studies personal development. He studies success. And he is a great new coach at the University of Attitude. We're actually relaunching our purchase mentality program. I will be coaching how to get inside the heart and mind of a real estate agent. And Gary's going to be coaching how to get inside of your own heart and your own mind and your own team's heart and mind for optimum successful performance. And he came up with this tagline: we're going to develop loan originators from becoming order takers to play makers. And that's what we're going to do with purchase mentality. So
Nice.
if you got a bunch of order takers in your organization and you want to become playmakers, Gary and I would love to come and show you guys how to become a playmaker.
Me and coach. Love it.
Gary, you want to say anything? I don't know if Gary wants to say hi or.
Yeah. How's everyone doing, man? I'm excited. Obviously, the join Glenn Bill. I mean, his reputation precedes itself. Obviously, you talk about how he owns the stage. I had the pleasure of seeing him on stage. And mid-year halftime, I spent a lot of time in the locker room at halftime, making adjustments. And real quick, 3 things that we always did in our halftime adjustments. The first thing was we practiced addition by subtraction. And that was looking at what things weren't working for us, what things could we subtract out of our game plan so we could continue in the second half and we could be more effective. The second thing we did, this is important, we never got bored doing the right thing. Oftentimes we're doing the right thing and that consistency, we get bored, we get lazy, we want to let up the gas, but you can't, because of those things, those little details are what add up to those big victories. And lastly, the third thing, and this is the most important thing, and at the end of the day, this is why we won so many games, most winningest team in 8 decades of football. And the third thing was like, you have to go the longest or the hardest, the longest, right? It's the mid-year. We still got a whole 6 months left. So you can't let your foot off the gas. You're going to continue to condition yourself, condition your body, your mind, your soul to finish off this year strong so you can start 2023 on the right track.
Hey, Gary, I love those 3 things. I would love to know, because so many games are won and lost in the last 2 minutes.
Right.
And so how would you, obviously what you just said is big picture, but give us some of your, whether it's self-talk, team talk, on how do you say what you say, how do you think what you think, and then how do you keep that all the way to the last minute of the game?
I think for me, I practice visualization. And in football, it's a 60-minute game on TV, right? But it's really only about 12, 13 minutes of actually play time. And in those 12 or 13 minutes, there's going to be 4 or 5 big plays that's going to determine the outcome of the game. And you never know when that play is going to be. So for me, in my mind, every play was going to be that play. And if it was going to be that play, then I was going to be the one to make it. So I wasn't going to be surprised when the ball came to me short for an interception. I wasn't going to be surprised where I was the guy who had to make the tackle or the game when it stopped. So the moment wasn't going to be bigger than me because I've always prepared myself to be in that position. And I expected success because that's how I train my mind, my body, and my soul.
And I'm not sure, I think AFC Championship game at Indianapolis, there was a quarterback named Tom Brady.
Right.
And this was the guy that picked him off to send New England.
No,
or was it not you?
It was Marlon. It was Marlon Jackson.
Okay.
But it wasn't him. It definitely would have been me. But we practiced, like I was the captain of the team. So I was a guy after practice, a guy during warm-ups when the offense is going, or guys are typically sitting on the coolers, talk about what they're doing for dinner. I was a guy making sure that we caught extra balls and making sure that we were ready in the game. So when the opportunity presented itself, we would take advantage of it.
And Dave, if I can, I wrote down my 3 things as a high school football coach for 25 years, keeping with the halftime thing. I just want to run through mine real quick, if that's okay with you guys.
Can I say one thing real quick, Dave? What that just reminded me of when Gary said every play mattered, every play could have been that play. That reminds me of every loan matters.
Right.
And when you talk about the biggest cost in a mortgage business is that missed opportunity, that's where my brain went. So sorry to interrupt.
No.
Let's go, Glenn.
No, it's all good. Well, the first thing obviously that players do, and when I talk about players, I'm talking about loan originators or their LOs, their branch managers LO, is it's a time to rest. And so, I'm thinking about the next 4 days. It's been a crazy 2 quarters, but go ahead and rest. You know what? Resting is cool. But as a coach, even when my players were resting when we hit end, the first thing we did is we would have our position coaches would meet. And so for you branch managers out there or you team leaders out there, resting's nice. You got to let your players rest, but who are your key coaches? Who are your position coaches? Who are the people that are fueling and running your halftime? And then you need to analyze the data, what works, what doesn't work. But analyze the data of your opponent. When we'd come in at halftime, we would say, what is our opponent doing? Well, loan originators, I want you to think about not who the opponent is, but the market. What is the market doing? Like, do you have the data? Do you know how many deals that were done in the market? Do you know how many deals your realtors did? Do you know how many deals that you got from those realtors? Because if you don't, you're operating and you're going to create a strategy in the dark. And the most pivotal time of any football game or basketball game in that matter is who makes the better adjustments at halftime. So like now is the biggest opportunity to make the adjustments. I can tell you who the best coached teams are in any league because it's the teams that win in the third quarter. Games aren't won in the last 2 minutes. Games, in my opinion, are won at halftime with the adjustments made. So I want you to do a competitor analysis, find out who the most successful people are in your market, find out what they're doing, find out what they're doing better than you, find out what you're doing better than them, and really, really understand the people that are thriving and successing and being successful. And then lastly, loan originator, look at the market's adjusting, the market's going up. What is your adjustment plan? Do you have one? Or are you just going to sit there and watch what happens, right? And go, what the hell happened? Third thing is you need to communicate, right? So after we would do the data analysis, we'd say, here's what's working, here's what's not. Third thing we would do, we'd have to go back and communicate to our players. Loan originators, you need to go back and communicate to your marketplace. You need to go back and communicate to your realtors. And here's what you need to do. Number one, you need to communicate. Here's what's happened in the first 2 quarters. You need to recap your discoveries. The second thing, you need to come up with 5 unique opportunities that this mortgage market is bringing to your real estate agents. There are 5 opportunities for agents to win with you if you know what they are and if you know how to communicate them. You got to set the expectations with buyers, but you also need to set the expectations with realtors. What are those? We can talk about those. Hopefully, after these 4 days, you're going to come into the third quarter. July 5th, you should be walking out of the tunnel like it's halftime and say, I got a freaking game plan, and I'm going to communicate this to the market, to my current database, and to my realtors. And the bottom line is you need to share the promise. You need to share the promise of how good things can be. You need to stay positive. You need to focus on the opportunities because everyone will pay the price if you give them the right promise. So the bottom line is, what is your promise? What is your expectation? What is your plan? That's Coach Bill's halftime adjustments, and that's what we used to do when I was coaching for 25 years. Not on the highest level. So,
hey, this is incredible. I mean, this is 15 minutes of pure gold. Todd, I'm gonna bring you in just a second to share some of your halftime adjustments, and then we will just mastermind this. I do want to call out what Glenn Bill said. The best teams and the best coaches are the ones who make the best halftime adjustments. And I do want to call that out for 2 games that everyone on this call is playing. You're playing one game, your team game, your game. Like, how am I, as a producer, as a mortgage professional, going to come out there, make adjustments, and perform better? So you're playing the game for you. But here's the deal, guys. If you believe it, what I believe, that a mortgage professional is positioned to be the captain of the wealth team, like you are positioned, you have more data on a family than realtors, more data on a family than CPAs, financial planners. You got both sides of the balance sheet. You are the captain of the wealth team. So you are a coach. You are a coach to every financial planner you have. You are a coach to every realtor you have. You are a coach to every family that you serve. And so you got to kind of like make two plays. Like, what am I going to do? And what am I going to do to serve all the people that I'm coaching? Because I'm the captain of the wealth team. So to me, that was an important frame. Todd, each one of these gentlemen just shared their 3 halftime adjustments. I don't know whether you want to share 3, but as Mr. Win by Noon, anything you want to debrief on that and anything you want to share?
Well, I mean, it was pure gold what the two of them just laid out. And, so it's been a while since I played in the Super Bowl myself, although I won't say which team I cheered for when I went to watch my Eagles beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but I did at least attend one. I just wasn't quite out on the field like Gary was, and I think we could probably spend 2 hours unpacking all the things that they discuss. And so let me just throw out a few ideas that I would say from my Win by Noon perspective that I'd be looking at, kind of weave them in with what they've got, and then maybe we can all have a discussion around it, because I think when you've got the man who runs the University of Attitude, right? I think the first thing everyone needs is a checkup from the neck up, right? Really, where's your mindset right now? You started off, Dave, saying, hey, I'm not going to say this is a crazy market, but I still find that when I'm talking to loan officers, most of them are in the mindset that I'm in a crazy market. It's out of my control. Things are, rates are way up, inventory's going up. I talked to half a dozen realtors in the past 2 days who were like, my business is dead. Like there's nothing, I got nothing going on. And so you've got to be in the right mindset yourself as a loan officer and know, Glenn just laid it out. Like, what are the 5 opportunities you can talk to them about, and make sure that you're their cheerleader. You're helping them. You got to have the best attitude here yourself in order to make sure that you're sharing the best attitude with them. I think that's, really number one. I think number two is your current reality. I mentioned it earlier. You've got to know where your numbers are. Where do you stand today? Right. I think in our community, all of you set a goal and wrote a business plan for 2022. And I think most of the time when I'm talking to people, their plans are not going quite to their numbers aren't going quite to plan, right? We had Jeremy on here, Forcier. He said his business a couple weeks ago, he said was down 39%. I've talked to other loan officers whose business are down over 50%. And so you've got to really look at what's your current reality, and where are you now? Like reset the mindset of, but you've got to know where you are in order to be able to do that. And then I think probably if I was going to throw out a number 3, it would be to recast your goal, right? So Glenn just said it, like you got a 4-day weekend if you take off after this call, and you have time, worst case, you have 3 days to really sit down and drive home. Well, where do I need to go to get there? And so you've got to look at what are the 5 opportunities for you in this market. And we can certainly have a discussion around it. I definitely want to have Glenn say what he thinks some of the opportunities are for real estate agents. But really, when you're making a plan, when you set a plan, you've got to actually say, okay, well, here's where I'm trying to go. We talked about current reality where I'm now. We got to look at what are those steps that I'm going to take to get there, and ultimately take action. So once you can identify the opportunities for you, then you can prioritize which of those opportunities is going to be the top priority. And so, maybe for you, it's doing a quick realtor review. So one of the things that Deborah and I talk a lot about on our Monday Win by Noon calls is, as a loan officer, one of your responsibilities, Glenn already mentioned, is to be reaching out to your partners. And what I found is that when I was feeling overwhelmed, I would actually reach out to my partners and see how they were feeling, right? If you're overwhelmed, guess what? They're overwhelmed. And then help them do the planning. And as you help them plan, you're essentially digging in and doing your own planning as well. There's free tools. If you go to winbynoon.com/business planning tool, you can download a free business planning tool. We put one out every single quarter. There's one there for loan officers. There's one there for real estate agents. So just a quick tool that you can download, use for free with your real estate partners to help them do their planning. But ultimately, in the end, you've got to do your 3rd quarter planning. What are my opportunities? And then you want to go out there and search it out and really help others. And, one of my big passions that's always been is if you're not really checking out what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? Recording your activities and tracking your results. Dave's been talking a lot about conversion rates matter now more than ever, right? We just had Deborah come in and say, hey, every loan matters, right? I think every lead matters now more than ever. And so if you're not actually looking, here we are doing a halftime review, but I would encourage you should be looking every day, what are my numbers? You should be looking every week, what are my numbers? And then take this halftime review and make it a habit of weekly, monthly, quarterly reviews going forward. And I think if you can nail that, then you can make those course correction adjustments that you need to make. You can do all the things that we just talked about, which, again, I've already got a page of notes, so I got to flip backwards. But, I love the whole idea of the whole looking at addition, creating addition by subtraction, right? I think there's probably things that you're doing as loan officers right now that you should stop doing. And there's probably some other things you should start doing. But I would love to get some feedback and kind of hear what everyone else has to say.
So let's do this, Deborah. Let's, for the rest of the call, you and I take turns on who kind of debriefs what was said and who asked the question. So I do want to ask one question to Glenn and Gary, and then it'll be your turn. Debrief whatever you want and ask the next question. So Glenn and Gary, I shared a stage with Jocko Willink last week, and he went on before me. You know, gosh, is that a fun thing to do? Come on after Jocko. But the mantra was, it's operator weather. He goes, like, as SEALs, you know, when it was bad weather, we were like, this is operator weather. Like, we were pumped because we knew that, you know, the colder, the windier, the less visibility, whoever our enemy was, whoever we were going against, they got the same condition, and they don't have our attitude, and they didn't train like we did for this. Like, we love this. We call it the operator weather. And I know that you guys have some attitude around this. And in the mortgage business, that's what it is. You know, it's not a market where you're going to close more loans and it's easy. It's a harder market. So kind of taking that mentality, whether you're talking to a realtor, whether you're talking to a loan officer, I'd love to hear your version from both of you guys. So why don't you guys go first on how you want to address that and speak directly to the heart of a mortgage or real estate professional. This might even be like a little micro clip that we blast into the industry to get people fired up about this marketplace. So which one of you wants to go first?
Yeah, I go first. I'll take that. So the Colts, we were built as like a speed team. So our defensive was myself, Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathers, Bob Sanders. You know, we were relatively vertically challenged. And we would go to games, Houston, Texas, for instance, and they would wet the field. They had an inside dome, but they would wet their turf, and they would, and their mindset was that, hey, we're gonna slow you guys down. And I'm saying, like, so it's gonna slow you down just as much. So we still are gonna be faster than your slowest guys. So it doesn't matter. So for me, it's just like, it never mattered what tricks, what trades, what adversity we were facing. We had things that we wanted to accomplish. It was us versus us every time we went out there. And the things we couldn't control, we didn't worry about it because we couldn't control it. So I could control what I could control, what clicks I wear, you know, the steps that I take, my reads, all those things were things that are under my control. And that's what I focused on during the game. And all the adversity and obstacles, I understood them, I was aware of them, but I didn't bog myself down with those details because I wasn't in control.
I love that. And so you think about who's wetting your field down as a loan originator. Like, who is wetting your field down as a loaner? Is it the Fed? Is it your sales manager? Is it a pain in the ass realtor that you don't like? Like, do you get it? It doesn't matter who's wetting your field down. Everybody's playing on the same wet field. And, you know, when I look at real estate agents and what is happening, you know what? All right, it switched from a seller's market to a buyer's market. Guess what? I'm really excited. Our buyers are going to get the best prices on homes. They're going to get the best terms in terms of possession. They're going to be able to inspect a property and not have blindly $20,000 worth of inspection issues come after you close. Like, look at the field has changed, right? It's gone from seller to buyer, and all the opportunities that come with that is what is exciting. And for seller side, look at, you want to make a difference. You want to show your value and show your the difference between you and every other agent. Understand how to sell in an increasing rate environment. And so, you know what? Let's talk about ARMs. Let's talk about buy downs. Let's get your come on, Dave.
Total cost analysis.
The TCA. Let's get those TCAs going on 2-1 buy downs, 3-year arms, 7-year arms, 5-year arms. Let's go. Guys, it's a whole new communication process, and I love it. Those agents that have never sold in a tough market are going to go away. I know this, my business, we gain market share every time the market sucks. I hope things get worse. I do believe, and I've talked with several people, look at rates are going to have to outpace inflation. Inflation is at 8.5%. I am completely ready to go and do a 10% interest rate environment. And if you're not thinking about that, right, dig your well before you're thirsty.
That's right.
That was from Gary. Love that book. Then you're crazy. So you need to be thinking about 10% interest rates and what you're going to do. The bottom line is this: people still have to move. People die, people get divorced, people get foreclosed on. people still make a ton of money and can afford the higher interest rate. It's a great time to build wealth through purchasing. I mean, in a high interest rate environment, there's no better time to buy real estate at a lower price than in a higher. So, I mean, those are just some of the, some of my mindset getting into what's getting ready to happen. And I can't, we eat adversity for breakfast. I mean, that's our vitamin no, baby. So let's go.
You're muted, Deborah.
I was gonna say, can we just point out Glenn's attitude and just energy, and you can feel the excitement. And I've seen so many social media posts or different YouTube videos where we've kind of had some gloomy gusses out there of talking about the market, not trying to say the crazy word. I actually recorded a video and was about to use the word crazy, and because of Dave and Jeremy, I've been trying to stop myself with that word, but you can feel Glenn's excitement. And so I want to encourage everybody who's on this call that when you're running out of the tunnel on Tuesday, when it's July 5th, how are you showing up? Last week, we talked about how to best give a presentation, and we asked about what things are you consuming. This week, I consumed the Keeping Current Matters deep dive. And guys, they said this year is still expected to be the second best year in regards to home sales in real estate from the last 15 years, the second best year, where last year was number one. So it's still, we're on track to do, I think it's 5.4 million home sales. That means people are buying. So there's people buying. Who are they buying from? Who's helping them? So I wanted to point out how, oh, did you just raise your hand, Todd? Oh, no, he's not talking to us. Sorry, I thought you were. I just want to make we talked about this last week with how you present, and you can feel Gary and Glenn's just charisma and energy, and it's attractive. So my biggest tip for you all is I want you to go face to face with your real estate partners, and don't forget, yes, we're readjusting, resetting our own business. Maybe this is also with your teams. I think sometimes we forget there's a lot of fear and uncertainty that's just in these headlines in the media, but also with your teammates. So I'd love to hear from, both Gary and Glenn. How do you help teammates when you've been training hard, you're ready for this, but maybe you've got a sourpuss in the locker room or someone who's worried about, there's layoffs going on. How do you make sure you get your team and culture on board? Because we do know culture trumps everything.
Well, one, we just developed a great workshop, change your play from an order taker to a playmaker. So if you want to make some plays, you definitely know where to come, University of Attitude. But one of the things for me, being a captain of a leader of a Super Bowl championship team, one of the things that I always say to myself and to the other leaders on the team was the speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. The speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. So when it was up to me, we weren't going to have a bad practice. We weren't not going to run to the football. I wasn't going to accept it. And I wasn't just going to accept it by me yelling and screaming at people. I was going to show it first by my action. So we need the leaders, and we need those people that are in these companies, they need to be the ones getting to the people first, tell them how they can pivot, tell them how they can make their way in a 10%, interest rate environment. And those things has to come from the top, because they're going to hear from the other side. They already are on Facebook, I could be the leader inside of their teams that shows people how they're going to win. And when you show people how to win, then they can follow suit.
And Deborah, again, talking to the LOs as they approach their teammates, the realtors, don't show up as an order taker. Show up as a playmaker. Like, do you understand that people want to be led, especially real estate people? And if you show up and you're not a playmaker, you're not going to get the business. Deion Sanders was the playmaker. When I coached for 25 years, I always found one guy and I'd call him the playmaker. So people do what they're expected to do. People do what they're expected to do. Realtors do what they're expected to do. Your customers do what you expect them to do. So you need to understand, how do I build the expectation with the people that I'm engaging? Well, one way is not to be an order taker and sit there and take notes, and I just need No, you go in there and make plays. Maybe you go into that real estate agent and say, hey, I know the market sucks, but I'm pretty sure there's a for sale by owner sign within 2 square miles of here. Let's jump in the car, get a coffee, and go bang by owner doors, right? Let's go and recruit other great agents. Let's go preview property. Let's go do total cost analysis for everybody that is a for sale by owner, because we can offer a mortgage product if they happen to sell it. Like, what can you do with your real estate agent to generate business? I mean, how about this? Why don't we go Facebook Live and talk about the 5 greatest things that are available in the real estate market today, right? What are the 5 biggest advantages presenting themselves in the real estate market? Here's my agent. Here's my LO. But you know what? If you ain't a playmaker, you're not going to do that, right? And so, like, what can you do with your agent right now to love on them, to be a playmaker, and to lead them? That's what I'd be doing if I was a loan originator. I'd be forcing my real estate agents into activity by creating and doing the activity myself, no matter whatever the hell it is. That's just my thought.
Man, this call is like pure fire. It's like there's like highlights every 5 minutes. We can like micro content this, micro content that. There's just so much gold in this. So
I can't wait till the 5th of July. I don't even want to wait till the 4th.
I know. And I'm picturing Deborah's story. We're all running out under the tunnel, with, coming back with fans that love us.
Yes.
So one thing I know for sure, if you are a mortgage coach, buy-downs rock in this market. I posted a link to a video that Nicole Ruth did, one of America's best loan officers. I'm going to put a link in chat and put a link down below. But guys, if you're a mortgage coach and you want to live by the mantra that my advice makes a difference, buy downs are something you want to be able to communicate very concisely, very memorably, and in a way that's simple. Like, they can be complex. And so I would push every mortgage coach on this call to create, and I'm going to, put what Nicole did. It was, hers was 11 minutes. I think she pulls that off. I would urge you guys to try to do something in like 5-ish minutes, but create something for your agents and get it out on Facebook. I want you guys to take time off. If you need the time off, take the time off, but schedule it. When are you going to record it? When are you going to promote it? And get that out by the end of next week. By the end of next week, if you're a mortgage coach and you have not got a TCA out to everyone, showing 2-1 buy down, permanent buy down, providing education, I'm just telling you, you are missing an opportunity of gold. I'll put links down below. So Todd, I would love to have you get a chance to answer the question I asked these 2 gentlemen. And also, if there's any other win by noon leadership you want to bring in, the way I really look at it is we got 3 special guests on this call, Mr. Win by Noon, Mr. Super Bowl captain, and so no one that pumps me more than Glenn Bell. I remember the first time I saw you on stage at a Fairway event. It was over a decade ago. And I'm like, this is my dude. Like I had a bromance on you because you were just attitude, cool, straight talk, no bullshit, Glenn Bell. So Todd, you're up.
It's so funny because you talked about, following Jocko Willink. And I got to imagine, you always have that moment where, as Jonathan Roach say, you have the voice choice and the negative voice takes over from the positive voice, right? Okay, I'm going to go after Jocko. And you talk about the fact that it's operator weather. And we've talked about it a lot for the last 90 days, that this is the time for loan officers to take ground, right? So go back to this whole military thing. I mean, military folks, their goal is to take ground. And if you can come in with even an eighth of the attitude that Glenn Bill is bringing here, if you can have an eighth of that excitement when you're going out there to your partners, you've got all your competition out there. They're all doom and gloom, right? Glenn said, check out what the competition's doing. I think the bottom line is the competition's not doing a whole lot, right? They have that mindset that, oh, woe is me, rates are going to 10%. No one's told me rates are going to 10% until Bill told me. So if they go there, we're going to credit Bill and thank him for that. But, the bottom line is that we have this opportunity, and Gary said it's us versus us. And I think that that's where most of the loan officers that I talk to, kind of get stuck. And so Dave's already given you the action plan. So that's perfect, right? Dave took the coach role. He says, by next Friday, you're going to create a video, a 3 to 5 minute version of what Nicole Ruth did. He's given you the playbook. I would encourage you to get it done before then, right? Get it done by Wednesday, right? Tuesday, you're going to be coming back in after a 3-day weekend, and you're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming, but you're going to have to block and tackle. And so you've got to think now more if it's us versus us, right? If someone's going to wet your field, typically, ironically, it's you. It's the distractions that you're going to allow, and you've got to figure out how to be laser focused on being tactical with the things that you need to grow your business. So I said you're going to identify opportunities, and I think we already talked about it. The opportunity number one, first and foremost, is to help your partners right now. Help them be positive and get the news out to your database, and then share it with your partners so they can share it with their database on all these great ideas that we have here. And again, we've talked about it a lot in this community. There's great examples of the seller buy down, and the TCA obviously is the best way to show that. It's not that hard, but it's here. It's you versus you, right? Us versus us. It's in your mind like, oh, Nicole's Nicole. She did a few $100 million last year. I didn't. I can't do it. You can do it, right? It's operator weather. Everyone else is having the same doubts that you're having. You just got to be the one who pushes them aside and gets out there and does this, and then go to your partners with these ideas. Because I'm not jumping in a car with a realtor and going and knocking on a FSBO door, but Glenn is, and he's going to, maybe that's the idea that would get your real estate agent excited. You've got to give them the ideas and see what'll excite them. And I'm just pumped for you to come out of the tunnel, right? I guess I'm gonna have to go find a football stadium near here. I don't know if I'm in LA, so maybe the Rams will let me run through the Super Bowl tunnel there. But really, that whole idea of let's hit the road, let's hit the ground running on Tuesday, and we're a community. Let's support each other. Let's hear some success stories. And I just know that you've got it in you if you make the choice to do it. It's you versus you, and you're going to take control and win.
So Todd, I got a challenge for you. First of all, don't ask permission. Get your kids and go just run out that stadium and get pictures for us. Create some video
Please
for
go
us,
live when you do that.
All right.
Please go live.
Yeah, go
All right.
live.
Okay,
Yeah. So just
perfect.
throwing it
Perfect.
out.
As long as the police don't take my camera when they're putting me in the car, I'll be okay.
As long as you're live, we'll still be rooting for you.
Little Books fan family challenge out there, bro. So what I'd like to do for my question, because I think it's my turn, I'm not going to debrief anything because I think you're all smart. You connected the dots on that. If you are getting a highlight so far, I'd love to know what that is in chat. And if you do have a question for anyone on this call right now, put your questions in chat. We're going to run out of time. Let me see, first quarter, second quarter. We're like almost done with the third quarter right now, guys. So we're like in the final couple of minutes of the third quarter. I do want all the leaders to be thinking about what is your fourth quarter advice when we get into that. But Glenn, I'm going to throw the mic to you for my question. And what question do you have for Gary? Because you know this guy. Like what do you think in the context of this conversation is something that you should ask him that he could really add some value? So it's your turn.
Is this for me?
Yeah.
To ask him?
Yeah.
I think it's real simple. Football is a violent game. And you need to understand that at the level of pro football, you are literally risking paralysis. Nobody's ever died on a football field, but there's been plenty of people that have altered their physical state and that have not come off the field to ever walk again. That risk does not exist for loan originators. Nobody is going to rack you up so bad that you're going to become paralyzed. The question that I want to ask Gary is this: what's the mentality that gets you onto that field, understanding that you may never be able to walk again? So what I want to talk about is fear, right? Like LOs are afraid of real estate agents because they may get their ego hurt. I've never met a realtor that beat the shit out of a loan originator because they called on them too much. But Gary, when it was game day or even practice, he had to push through some fear, and you probably never thought about it, which may be the answer. Yeah. But talk to us about fear, how you overcame fear, and who was the scariest son of a gun you had to smack in the mouth on a football play. And I want you to listen to Gary, and I want you to think about that agent you're afraid to call on. Go smack them in the mouth on July 5th. So Gary, talk to us about overcoming fear and who the scariest player was that you ever saw on the football field?
Yeah, now that's a great question. I think the fear piece, football player, you're performing in front of 50, 60,000 people. So you're under a microscope. So everything you do on the field is being judged. And it could go real bad real quick. And we had this thing, good play, bad play, get over it, move on to the next play. So for me, I had to reverse my fear of failure. And I had to like reprogram myself to tell myself that failure is not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing for happen is for me not to try. Like, so I had 12 career interceptions. And when in the NFL quarterbacks and the receivers are so good, if you wait until the quarterback throws the ball, you will not make the play. They're too good. So you have to like believe in your training. You have to believe in your skills and know that he's throwing it this way and I'm going to be the one that jumps in front of him and catches it. So I will program my mind that I'm going to make this play. Like it didn't happen yet. He's looking at him. So I'm already breaking on that play, convincing myself I'm going to make it. Now, I missed a lot of those plays, right? But I wasn't out there on the field thinking to myself like, hey, I missed the last one. I'm not going to take advantage of this one. No, the last one is done. I can't do anything about that. This next play is going to be the play that's going to change the outcome of the game. And that was always my mentality. Like fear's there, but I'm going to do away with it. I'm going to use it. I'm going to fail. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of the process. You're going to fail. Get over yourself, get over the fact that you fail is going to lead you to more success. And I think with that mentality, you're not going to be afraid to hear no. You're not going to be afraid that, hey, someone's giving me a better rate somewhere else. That's part of the process. You're just going to shake it off and go to the next one, excited. This is going to be the call where I'm going to close that deal. Now,
well, and here,
go ahead.
Here's where I think that matters, right? For all of you, it's you're going to call a new realtor, you're trying to get the meeting, and they say no, and you've got to say good play, bad play, move on to the next play, because you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes. So I love that idea, because that's the biggest fear I think that loan officers have in this market, is that my target realtor is going to say no.
Yeah,
that reminds me. What'd you say, Gary?
Yes, it's going to happen, no question.
Well, and I'm sure there's games where to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, the amount of discipline and the day in and day out of grueling practices when you were sick, didn't feel good, had injuries, and you worked your tail off and everybody's working hard, and maybe you didn't make it to playoffs that year, or you make it to the Super Bowl game and you lose. It reminds me of when you said, never get bored of the small things. So you don't allow that one loss. And maybe this first half of the year for 2022, you're looking at your numbers and you're thinking you may not be where you want to be. But the biggest difference in the playmakers, I believe, is how do you choose to respond to the little setbacks, or maybe to that playoff loss that you had? Are you going to go and sulk and hide out and say, this isn't for me? Or I can tell you, just from working with the elite and the top guns in this community, they are doubling down on their fiscal literacy. They are taking time to become masters in that space. They're following Borrower Smart University. If you're not watching that blog, I highly encourage you to watch that blog. And thank God, Todd Ballinger drops lots of gold into the mortgage coach community. They're upping their tech stack. So they're taking the time to learn. And it may be difficult, like those training days that when you were injured and you didn't want to go to the gym, you just didn't want to go. You didn't want to get tackled and have to get up again and do it again day after day after day. So my question for both Glenn and Gary is whether from a coaching role, because I'm thinking of branch managers and other leaders, when you're coaching your loan officers who may be thinking, we're losing, we're down, I'm never going to be able to reach my goal that I had planned, we're too far away. How do you coach those loan officers in your branches to get them as fired up and back on track, that even if if you don't make it to the Super Bowl this year, how do you inspire that pain and that feeling to just motivate you to come back grittier, hungrier, and smarter and more prepared for the next year?
Yeah, so to your point, our Super Bowl season 2007, in December, we played Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. And the funniest thing I ever heard a sports reporter say, they said, Jacksonville would have ran for 500 yards on offense, but the end zone kept getting in the way, right? So that means they kept on scoring. So we gave 400 yards of offense, which is like awful. It's probably one of the worst performances ever. So everyone wrote us off. How can this team who just gave up 400 yards of offense, how are they going to make it to the playoffs? How are they going to win? They're playing Larry Johnson, was a 2,000-yard rusher that year. So we had a bunch of adversity after that. But you know what? We came back. We vision set. We looked at our goal sheet of what we want to accomplish this year. We practiced addition by subtraction. And then we say, hey, how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. And we didn't look at the big global goal. We just said, what can we do today that's going to lead us to our goals? And then the next thing, what can we do tomorrow that's going to lead us there? And we just went real micro, and every single day we just gave it our best. And when you do that daily, the compound interest compounds. And then when you look up in a month, 2 months, you're getting closer to your goals that you set for that year. So it's about being laser focused, being disciplined, about taking a daily approach to your habits, to your discipline that's going to lead you to your ultimate goals.
And I'll just add, we had one of the greatest leaders in NFL history, Tony Dungy. And Tony, and I want you to remark on this, Gary. The number one thing you can't do when shit goes wrong is panic. And the number two thing you can't do is turn on each other. So Gary, anything that Tony talked about, bringing people in, teamwork, and when you gave up 400 yards, what was his demeanor as a leader that made you love him as a leader? What did Tony teach you about that?
Yeah, one of the most important lessons that I use in my daily life was never get too high, never get too low. And so often we let some of our successes, think that we've arrived. We pump our chest, we're out there, and not realizing we're only successful because of the work that we put in. And if you stop putting in that work and you think you have arrived, you will regress. And then and then when we lost, it's not that bad. Hey, we gave up 400 yards, but look, these three. So it's so clean up these little things. So you will always put things in perspective. And when you're looking at them, it's not, never get too high, never get too low. And being able to stay even keel as a leader and not going off, because the reality is there's no new draft where you're gonna go out and draft a whole new team. So the people that are on your team are on your team. So how can you encourage those people that are on your team that just won maybe early in the year, that just won maybe last year? This is the same team members. They can win. So how can we win now in this market?
Awesome.
So powerful, gentlemen. So we're in the fourth quarter, guys. We're 3 minutes into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, put your fours up. Put your fours in the air. This is what fours in the air.
Fourth quarter, guys. And we might go over because I don't want to steal any time from this group, but we're going to close out with that video from Jocko called "Good," because I think it's a time for us to all remember. Anybody who hasn't heard that little 2-minute video, whether it's 2 minutes after the hour or the last 2 minutes of the call, we're going to all listen to that together. But Todd, I'd love for you to translate what you've heard, net it out, win by noon style. A lot of what I've heard Gary and Glenn say could be all in the win by noon planner. So whether someone is a win by nooner and they're using the planner, or they have their own planner, I got a blank sheet of paper. It doesn't matter what they do, but if you could just help folks net it out, and then let's go back to Glenn and Gary and realize, guys, we're in the fourth quarter. Let's give fourth quarter advice. Deborah, you pile on. But Todd, put this in a win by noon framework for us.
Well, Gary just said it. It's a day by day thing, right? It's every single day. You got to be focused on what is it that I have to do today. And so, ultimately, as you're coming out of the tunnel and you're planning, right? So really, I look at what's your second half of 2022 playbook going to look like, right? You get to draw up the playbook, and then you've got to draw it up. Certainly, what's the goal? Like, what I'm going to reset the goal, and here's where I want to be at the end of the year. But again, you're here right now, and so ultimately, it's going to be what is it that you're going to do on Tuesday, right? What are your daily disciplines that you are going to do? What are your target day activities that you've got, so that you can get the most important priorities done first before you start reacting to everything else? Because that's ultimately, we talked about it earlier. He said it's us versus us. It's you versus you. And that's my biggest fear, is that you're all fired up from this call. You do what Glenn said, you spend this time thinking and unplugging over the weekend, and then you're ready to roll. You've got this new plan, and then your phone rings, right? And it's your processor and there's a problem on a file, or, Realtor calls and they're upset about something their client said or whatever it is that draws you off. And so instead of you actually staying mission focused on what's the most important priority for Tuesday for you, then I'm worried for you. I'm worried that you're all of a sudden going to get to the end of the day and go, gosh, I had such a great play. I had a great playbook written out. I knew what I was going to do, and I got distracted. I got pulled away because somebody else set my priorities instead of me setting them myself, right? The bottom line is you all know what you need to do every day, right? You need to call leads. You need to call realtors. You need to get your loan applicants over the line. You probably have some type of target day activity, right? For a lot of loan officers in America, Tuesday's update call day. And then people get to the end, they say, oh, well, I'll just catch it next Tuesday. And so really what I want you to do on the second half of this year is say, okay, I just got to listen to Gary talk about being the captain of the Super Bowl, about saying that we got to go out there and we've got to win. And I feel like that you have this opportunity. I mean, Dave, you mentioned it's all built into Win by Noon, because I basically believe if I can prioritize my calendar, if I can schedule it gets done, then someone's going to be able to write down that activity, hold themselves accountable to it, or find someone else to hold you accountable within your office. But the bottom line is this, is you've got a huge opportunity in the second half of the year, right? It's go time for you. Bill and Gary both laid out, hey, here's the things that they would do, right? Bill just said, hey, let's get in front of our realtors. Let's talk about the opportunities. And so the bottom line is this, I want you guys to write this playbook out. Here's where I'm trying to go, or here's where I am going to go. And then really start at it with a daily, then a weekly, and then a monthly mentality. Just make sure you win Tuesday. Let's not worry about winning Wednesday or Thursday yet. Let's just win Tuesday. And then at the end of the day, Tuesday, you get to go in the locker room and you get to look at how you did. And so you want to do that self-assessment so that when you hit the ground running on Wednesday the 6th, that your game plan is even stronger, that you learn what you did, that you did a addition by subtraction, as Gary said. So I'm fired up. I'm going to go back through my notes here. I'm going to take away some of the points that Glenn and Gary said I can take to real estate agents and to others. And that's what I'm going to be doing after I get done with those most important activities on Tuesday. I'm going to be reaching out to realtors. I'm going to be sharing this newfound optimism that you hopefully all have.
All right, guys. So we're going to do a timeout. We got 5 minutes left of the game, guys. And we're down by a touchdown. So I'm going to throw it to Glenn and Gary. We're polling the mortgage coach community, some of America's, they're not just best loan officers, but loan officers that care about families' financial well-being, and they care about their advice making a difference. So timeout, the team is huddled around you two. You decide which one's going to go first, and give us what we need to come out on Tuesday and crush it this year.
So we would always say fourth quarter, big time players make big time plays in big time games. And this is the biggest game there is, right? The game of life, what you're doing in your business. And the first thing you need to do to start to be a playmaker is start thinking of yourself as a playmaker. You have to start thinking of yourself as a playmaker and start learning the plays and how you're going to attack them, so you're going to be the one on the successful side of it. There's people out there winning in this market. There's people out here with their hands the same as yours or worse than yours that's winning, that are making plays because they think about ways that they can make plays. So start developing the mentality that you're a playmaker and that you're going to find a way to make a play.
I love it.
Boom.
Boom. That's good stuff. If you go to the ABCs of Attitude, my book, you're going to see lessons from the fourth quarter. It's a chapter in my book. And I believe all things are won in the fourth quarter. It may be the fourth quarter of an interview. It may be the fourth quarter of a day. It may be the fourth quarter of a week, a month, a year. But my mind, my brain, my heart, my soul is made for the fourth quarter. And I know this, that I have more energy, more passion, more tenacity, more smarts, and more clarity in the fourth quarter than I ever do in the first quarter. And people say, well, aren't you tired? Well, no, because that's not called a fourth quarter mentality. I destroy people when they're tired. I look for weakness. I look for bad markets. I look for powders, and I look for tired people, right? And then I capitalize on their weakness. And that's the lesson from the fourth quarter. Do you have the guts? Do you have the vitality? Do you have the spirituality? Do you love adversity? Number 8 on the attitude boosters. Bottom line is this, whether it's an hour, a day, a week, a month, always have the fourth quarter mentality. Games are won in the fourth quarter. They are won in the last 2 minutes. They're won in preparation and all that. but how tough are you? How tough are you willing to be? And how tough are you willing to be on yourself so you shine at the end of the fourth quarter and come out and win and become the champion and the playmaker, not the order taker that you're meant to be?
Well, and I just want to add to that. I was married to a football coach for many years, not at that level, but I think a lot of people, they don't see, it's like the iceberg effect. The amount of time that coaches spend behind the scenes tracking, watching game film, I mean, drawing X's and O's on napkins. There is so much prep work that goes into every daily practice, not only of what your own practice plans are going to be, but how you're breaking down your competition. But then also, like we experienced this year, I don't want to put a thorn in Todd's side, but the Mavericks in the NBA playoffs, they won because they had the better strategy and the better plan going in on that second half or last quarter. So sometimes you can win games without even the best talent, but it's how did you prepare? What are those small wins you can rack up, those daily activities that are going to give you those confidence? Because I do believe it takes those actions that you have to take so that when you're going in fourth quarter, you can stare that opponent down and be like, let's go, I'm ready. But you got to do the work. So don't think it's, it's the whole iceberg effect. There's a lot that goes into it, how you have to prepare to get to that point where you can look at that opponent in the eye and be like, I got this. You can help me hold my trophy.
Man, all three of you guys are killing it. So mortgage coach community, this is fire. This is gold. Share this with your friends in the mortgage space. Share this with your management team. If you're a manager or leader, I would recommend the next sales meeting, you play this and then you put it on pause, you talk through it. If there's some highlights from it, let me know what they are. I'm going to have my team cut this up and get some micro content out there so we take some of the gold from this call. So let's not let this call die. Let's share this. Let's watch this. Let's use this. Todd, before I put on the Jocko video, any last closing thoughts? And then I'm going to do a little bit of good by Jocko.
Well, I'll keep it really short. I mean, the bottom line is that we've had an hour, as Dave said, with, the real estate leader that I know with the best attitude, Glenn Bill, and he really brought to you a lot of ideas that you can execute on with your partners, right? We got to talk about ourselves. We got to talk about our partners. And you got Gary Brackett, who is the Super Bowl winning co-captain alongside of Payton Manning, who brought just so much knowledge of how their mindset on the sports field is so positive, how they put things behind them. And oftentimes we are negative and we need to put that same attitude into our day. So I just know that there's lots of gold here. As Dave said, rewatch this, listen to it. And the bottom line is if you can show up on Tuesday, like we're talking about, I know you're going to win.
So Gary, I hope you're willing to come back into the community, and I'd love to do an interview and just focus on you. So if you're game, I'll be sending you out an invite, and Glenn, you're the man. So let's hear a little Jocko. I'm going to stay on till the end. If